what's going on, everyone? This is Grayson at Toniq Labs. We have Matthias Broner with us today, a part of the Dfinity team. Matthias, thank you for joining us.
Of course, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Grayson, and everyone from Toniq, as well as who's ever tuning in.
Well, let's get this started. Matthias, in my opinion, I think one of the biggest flexes you have shown the world is that you were the assistant head coach for the Stanford men's ultimate Frisbee team. Trust, positivity, hunger, these are all attributes to fulfill such responsibility. What drove you to this level of competition? What did you learn from this experience?
Yeah, that's you got me with the starter of a curveball. I was thinking we'd talk about internet computer and blockchain, but here we are talking about my ultimate Frisbee career. So no, I appreciate that. That's some good research. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to ultimate Frisbee, it was what I started getting into it as most people do at a summer camp, play with like a million people on a field, and you throw in the disc and you do the 3 steps and you're like, well, it's fun, never played again. And then all of a sudden found out later on that there was a team at one of my schools and started playing, carried it on through college and went, to nationals a few times with a small school, Luther College, represent. But that was spent probably way too many hours devoted to that sport, but it also teaches you a ton of things like camaraderie and, how to play in a self-officiated game, which, self-officiation is a different concept than most sports. I played soccer growing up, and half the time when you're playing soccer, the goal is to get away with what the referee can't see. But in self-officiation, if you pull someone's jersey or shorts, they call the foul. So, you play with a lot more integrity, and it really leads to a really exciting level of play. But also some people can abuse the rules. So it's an interesting kind of a sport. But from there, I kept playing throughout my time once I moved to the Bay Area and, got brought in to actually help coach Stanford during one of their runs. And I joined the team. Really amazing set of guys that were coaching, as well as that were playing. Gabe Hernandez, who actually just retired, he sent an article out to the world saying he's joining, PGA or PDGA Disc Golf Association. But regardless, there's a lot of interesting takeaways from that. But it was an amazing run to be able to be a coach and kind of switch to the other side of the ball and help people learn the sport and go all the way to nationals. And actually we had, Gabe was a Callahan winner, which is like the Heisman in the sport. So, a lot of really interesting things that came out of it, but yeah, quite the journey.
That is awesome. So how passionate were you about Frisbee during high school?
Yeah, I actually started playing sophomore year high school, and it became like the sport that consumed me. I was always like decent at I played every sport growing up. My mom jokes like the funniest one was when I did wrestling as like a middle schooler. I'm like 4'6" and like a little singlet, and but obviously like grew into the frame later. But ultimate kind of combined all these different sports that I liked, soccer and football with like vision and lines, as well as like strength and positioning from tennis and all these different things. So it was just like a really exciting sport. You love seeing people jump over people and lay out past people. But yeah, it was just still play it to this day, honestly. So great activity.
So is Dfinity gracious enough to grant you time to continuously play Frisbee? Do you have a lot of free time in your role?
I think Dfinity is wonderful. We do mostly work remote. So I have the ability to be able to, take my show on the road, if you will. But yeah, no, more often than not, Frisbee's on the weekends, and it works around work. A lot of the people that I play with do that as well. So I'm not playing in the professional league at this time, but maybe you'll see me out there running the circuit one of these days. But I'm on the club league, which is maybe considered the pro league by some. So yeah.
That's exciting. That's fun. So for those who don't know, Ultimate Frisbee is a non-contact, self-officiated disc sport played by 2 teams of 7 players. Maddie, would you be able to go in more in depth of how you play Ultimate Frisbee for those who are unaware of it?
Yeah, sure. For those who are expecting a crypto talk and are getting all this Ultimate Frisbee, we might as well explain it. So you've got 7-on-7, and you start with the Frisbee and you throw it to the other team, and their goal is to throw it to each other until they arrive into the other end zone. Similar to football, or rugby, if depending on which part of the world you're from and you're looking at, and you have to catch it in there and you score a point. First game to 15, and when you've caught the disc again, you cannot move. So you kind of got it there, and there's people defending. The sport gets really excited because of all the suspense, right? I think in football and soccer, when a pass is made, you've either already beaten the person or you haven't. In Frisbee, there's these curves you can put on them. It can hang in the air and build up, and you see the play accumulate and culminate before, the ultimate moment. And, it creates this like ultimate suspense and impact, and the game can come down to what's called universe point, where everything's on the line. And, there's honestly nothing more fun in sports than seeing athleticism coming to that moment. It's going to happen. You don't know what will happen. So yeah, great sport, super exciting. And, it's really accessible. All you need is a disc and, a couple of cones. So it's easy to play anywhere.
Yeah, it's a super, super fun sport. Those who have not tried it, find a local league, gather a group of buddies, go out and play, learn the game. It is a lot of fun. I know you talked about it briefly, but can you go into further of what it means that it's self-officiated?
Yeah, self-officiated meaning that, everybody kind of has to make their own plays and make their own calls. So again, it makes it so that it's a much sport with a lot more integrity than, the games that I played when I was playing soccer growing up, throughout middle school and high school. Again, people are kind of trying to get away with what they can with the refs. Whereas when you're the ref, there's a lot more of player versus player. But again, there's an ability to abuse those rules. But it's a super interesting concept, and I think it makes Ultimate something that will continue to grow. We'll see if that lasts. Right, a lot of sports used to be self-officiated. Soccer was, and then eventually, once a lot of the money got involved, that ended up going away, and the referees, became much more of a piece of it. So.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. So as of now, no intermediaries, no middleman, no referee. And when I first learned about this, the only thing I could do is make an analogy on blockchain, right? It's like pretty self-officiating, it's self-sustaining. So to relate this to the IC or technology as a whole, right? Lawyers, bankers, brokers, clearinghouses, governments, they're all a part of the trading equation, but do they need to be? Similarly, do referees need to be? Do you believe that blockchain technology will become self-officiating as well with no biases?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that is the hope of, what Web3 hopes to promise, or, whatever the extrapolation of it is, right? That we remove these intermediaries and we remove these trusted third parties, and we could have, trustless economies and networks. And again, if we're able to fully remove the middleman, then that helps bring the value back to those that are actually creating the value or exchanging said value. And the less value that's lost on every movement, transaction, the more that stays with the few or with the many, sorry, and then as opposed to going to the few. So I think, can and will it? I think it can. Will it? We'll see. I think there's a lot of different organizations and interests where this isn't something that they would want. And I think there is like parts of the status quo that are ultimately a lot better at this time, right? But I think the whole focus is around building out the better future that removes a lot of these intermediaries that are unnecessary. If we're able to do these things in a trusted sense, which again, that is the goal with a lot of these public ledgers and a lot of these immutable, concepts, and bringing in cryptography to kind of replace what we all would just agree is a trusted third party. And again, we've seen a lot of these trusted third parties burn people throughout time. So I think we all kind of need to continue to keep them accountable. And will it all switch over? Who knows? But I think it's about at least offering an alternative, enforcing a better system. And I think that's what we're all just trying to do here with Web3.
So the framework of trust, the ability to rely on, it's a big factor in Ultimate Frisbee, at least, and in blockchain, right? You're trusting on this whole new technology stack. Why is the concept of trust so meaningful to you personally?
Yeah, I think without trust, none of it works, right? I think in any aspect of work or blockchain or life in general, like trust is the most important concept. So if you don't trust your bank, why would you give them your money? If you don't trust that the network will be there, be secure, why would you use it? If you don't trust that this technology will support what you're building your future on, why would you do that? So I think trust on those levels is extremely important. And also trust has a different sense in a cryptographic sense, right? So I think like trustlessness and all of those things is extremely important when we're talking about crypto, hence cryptography, right? So
Yeah, that makes sense. So during your time as the assistant head coach, you were also employed by a wireless 5G home internet provider, correct?
yes.
So you were doing both simultaneously, right? Working plus the assistant head coach.
Yes.
And so you were also the head of product marketing for a company called now Moxo, only to then become the director of strategic alliance. So you definitely have a ton of experience, right? It's pretty breathtaking in my opinion. How has your experiences helped you to open the door to Dfinity? If you were to go back in time, would you change anything?
Yeah, great question. I think the going back in time, like, no, I wouldn't change anything. I think absolutely the path has been great. It's led me to be able to work in this ecosystem and, give me a wealth of experience across early stage startups and also scaling them to, kind of their series B, C and beyond, which has been really exciting and across a lot of different cutting edge industries. So, what was called Moxtra, we were focusing on SDKs, APIs, and doing collaboration technology. So pretty much like Slack, Zoom, and a few other projects combined, but that was all embeddable as well as, a white labeled application. So there's a ton of different areas that you could do that with. It could be education, it could be anything, but, found the area of opportunity to really be financial tech, which was, kind of a precursor to a lot of the work that we're doing here today with developer ecosystems and the kind of crossover of fintech and all these different collaborative apps, which now we call dapps in this ecosystem. And so that was really exciting, an amazing opportunity there for a ton of years, actually, an ancient amount of time in tech world of 4.5 years, and was there being able to work with a lot of the world's largest companies and helping them scale ecosystems of how do you bring banks to the bank list, right? How do you bring a bank to everyone in the world? Whereas in the past, you had to go into a brick and mortar institution to do important things like sign papers and meet with bankers, et cetera. So everyone has a mobile device. So how do you bring the bank in everyone's pocket? And that was kind of the promise that we gave to these, these huge organizations. And so then we were able to partner with them and deliver. And that was an amazing opportunity. And that extended into healthcare and a lot of really interesting use cases. So that was exciting. And then that kind of ended up transitioning after a while into, like you mentioned, 5G home internet. So taking, cutting edge technology of taking fiber, pulling it up to a roof, and then sending it in every direction using 5G radio waves, and then putting little antennas on roofs and wiring that into the home and giving people, 300 megabit per second internet for $30, which was definitely unheard of at the time. So super awesome, really interesting, but totally different world of marketing and product and different, going from like working with businesses to literally like, optimizing to like work with people in the community and like literally one-to-one, like working with humans, which was a lot more interesting, I thought at that time, to like actually work with people and give them something that they needed. And then, yeah, from there, I was over at Samsara for a bit. So leading cameras and AI and doing Internet of Things. So that was leading a lot of really interesting work with a great company. And then from there, they were both kind of in the world of A16Z. And so that's how I found Dfinity. And, I've always kind of been interested in crypto. I always thought Bitcoin was extremely interesting when it came out, followed the news, saw it go to 1400 when I was in college, and about dropped my cereal on the ground at the cafeteria because I was like, I remember when that thing was like 5 cents when I heard about it. I was like $20 at 5 cents. I'm like, that's like million some dollars. I was like, $20 could have been everything. I was like, we need to pay attention. What's going on here? And then Bitcoin, Ethereum came out, thought that was cool. Vitalik was like this really interesting, crazy like developer guy who'd come up with something that everyone's freaking out about. And so I've been paying attention to them since the early days, but never really thought of it as a career area until I saw Dfinity. And at the time, Dfinity was less public about being like blockchain messaging. It was a lot more like I had to figure it out. And like I was like, aha, I figured it out. It's a blockchain. Like, you got us. And then obviously now it's like all blockchain. And so I think it's that's kind of the overall journey of how we've ended up here. But yeah, it's been awesome, and being at Dfinity has been just an incredible ride. Joining, before, well before launch, and seeing all the way through, and kind of coming into the ecosystem growing. I'm just excited to see what people keep building, because there's been an amazing amount of things that have already come out, and especially just like right out of launch. So
That's so exciting. Okay, so you may have to repeat this part. So how exactly did you first hear about Dfinity? Because you knew about A16Z, which obviously helped fund Dfinity. Was it at that point you heard about them? Or when was the first encounter you had with it?
no, actually it had flown under my radar, because as I had mentioned, I'd been like observing Bitcoin and Ethereum and kind of some of these other projects, but I hadn't been like overwhelmingly like invested. I wasn't in crypto Twitter every day. I was just kind of like, I thought it was a really cool concept that made sense. Like if you look at money makes no sense to just keep printing it. And if you look at this, it made a ton of sense. They just like have a finite amount, at least, when it comes to Bitcoin. I was like, okay, that's an interesting concept, like hedge against whatever, whatever people want to do with it. So that's great. But then, again, when I was looking kind of through the A16Z Pro portfolio, I found Dfinity as one of their investments, and just thought it was this super interesting promise of building out this world computer. And at the time it was kind of explaining it a bit as a decentralized Amazon Web Services, where you're able to take software and put it into a system where you're taking the internet itself and turning it into a computer by taking all these data centers from across the globe and letting them be one giant processing system. So anyone anywhere can take code, deploy it to this, and that will power their app. And I was like, that is really cool. I was like, that is something that just really is interesting. And it resonated. I mean, my dad worked in high performance computing his whole life, and my grandpa on my mom's side, he was working on mainframes and way back in the day. And so, I just thought this was like, this is the next evolution of everything. You're taking crypto and you're making it, able to be used as an actual computer. And I remember, again, my dad, like I mentioned, he was high performance computing. I showed him Ethereum. I was like, it's like a world computer, because that's what it was being pitched as. And we looked at it, and he was like, I was trying to explain what smart contracts were, and I couldn't really at the time. And he was like, so we looked at it, and he was like, this isn't really a computer. You just execute, a object, meets a criteria and you execute. Really, like that's all it's doing. It's not a computer per se, like, or it could be, but like it seems like it's too cost prohibitive. And so I was like, okay, yeah, he's right. And then this came along, and I was like, oh, this seems to have solved that issue. And it really is picking up. I mean, that's why it's called the internet computer. It's picked up the vision of the world computer, built it in a new way with a ton of novel cryptography. And when I saw the staff and the team, like all these insane cryptographers that have just like a plethora of knowledge in cryptography, and also some of the OGs from crypto. Like I saw Timo Hanke, who had created ASIC Boost, and I remembered that ASIC Boost was something that really helped in mining at a certain period of time early in crypto or in blockchain, that helped that, or Bitcoin, that helped that kind of scale near its infancy. And so like a lot of really like, and Ben Lin from BLS Cryptography, which is cryptographic signature used across a lot of blockchain. And so I was like, oh, okay, these are just some like really high caliber, incredible people. And so yeah, I was just like, I need to work here. I was like, let's figure this out, and let's join this vision before it's too late. So
right then and there, your application was sent. 2 weeks later, a callback. The rest is history.
The rest is history, and here we are. I've transformed into Meta Matty.
Oh, that's awesome, Meta Matty.
Yeah.
The new nickname, Meta Matty. That's awesome. So I do want to ask you this, right? Because I feel like being a part of the crypto space, a lot of the times we can feel like the oddball out, especially with the friends we grew up with, or maybe distant relatives. They aren't too knowledgeable of this newer tech. How many friends and relatives have you converted to the IC ecosystem? I mean, how often do you convince people to join up on this tech?
Yeah, that's a great question. I generally actually try and like not overly shill at the dinner table, because I'm sure I do it too much inherently. Like I can't help it. It's what we all live and breathe. But I definitely love to let people know and see what the community has built, and like what's been worked on. And I had a ton of people join a bunch of the events. My mom is like at the like watching the Genesis event, and like trying to like win the t-shirt, and she's like looking at the poked bots, and she's like, "Ooh, I like this one," and stuff. So like there's, when mom's in it, that's always a good sign. So, but yeah, I think all of my friends are very aware of the internet computer. They know what's going on, at all moments. One of my buddies was asking me when the merged neurons feature was coming out in the NNS DApp, front end DApp, and that actually just came out today. So if anyone's curious, that's now available. So there's a lot of people that are really interested in, love, think the ecosystem has a ton of promise and love the vision. But yeah, again, I think it's just for everyone to make their own decisions as to like what ecosystem they want to be a part of, if they want to, and like what part of Web3 they like to experience. What I like about the internet computers, you don't have to spend money to be a part of it, right? Like you can just go on Discover and go browse, or like hit up District and make your decentralized LinkedIn, and so like I think there's like an awesome opportunity for a lot of people to experience it without having to spend money, whereas in other ecosystems it's not necessarily the case. But yeah, I guess that goes to the reverse gas model. So there you go.
That's awesome. Definitely the IC has its unique perks, that's for sure. So for you, Maddie, how does Dfinity call upon you day by day to use your repertoire of skill? What are some of the latest work assignments you found yourself really passionate about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There's, I think as with a lot of people at the foundation, we are all always working on a lot of different things, and all of them are probably beyond the scope of our titles. But the things that I really focus on a lot are, how do we create new initiatives, especially for growing the community and building out those aspects, but also how do we continue to explain the initiatives that a lot of the other rest of the org is building out, and make websites and web pages that are super clear and understandable around that, as well as like building out different kinds of campaigns to help new people understand what the foundation is about, what the internet computer is about, what people are building. I think the biggest initiative that I'm really excited about is the upcoming Supernova Hackathon. I guess it's reported to be the biggest hackathon in blockchain history at this point, when you're looking at like total prize commitment from all the partners and everything. So it's a huge opportunity for a lot of people to one, step into blockchain for the first time and hopefully stay in it. If you want to, as I say, take the red pill, I think this is an incredible opportunity because there's a ton of different prizes for a ton of different categories, but also follow-on funding and grants that are equity free, so that people can continue to build what they're building. We don't, it's not a hackathon where people just build something for the hackathon, get a prize, and disappear, right? It's trying to actually continue to support people that are already in the ecosystem building too, that are starting to build out projects and want to really ensure that they can like put all their efforts in and put a team together so that they're able to come in and have their project be able to make it to the next level, right? And get to the stage where they're able to exit to their community and have their community support and make all the rest of the decisions. And I think that, there's a really exciting time right now where there's a lot of, as I say, green field, blue ocean, whatever buzzword you want, to build out anything novel in the internet computer ecosystem, whether it is like, a remix of something that's already been built in the Web2 world, or really doing the more compelling things, which is taking the new components that the blockchain offers and building out technology that's never been before seen, that's really engaging for users and rewards them for their engagement, and combines all these different, combinations of DeFi and gaming and all these crazy things that we're starting to see budding, but I think, we haven't quite seen people crack the code on. So that's really excited about that. Hopefully this Supernova Hackathon can kick that off for a lot of developers that are crypto curious in crypto, but don't know much about the ecosystem, or are already in the ecosystem and are building fervently and want to continue to keep building on all these ideas they have.
Yeah, that's super exciting. In fact, you'll have to share your screen to tell us a little bit more about the Supernova Hackathon. But before we get into the specifics of it, what is a hackathon for any newcomers? Is it primarily just for developers? And if so, what prerequisites do you need? I mean, do you need proficiency in certain types of languages to build out applications? I think just the generics of what a hackathon is, that might be useful for some of our audience members.
Yeah, of course. I think, at a basics, a hackathon is really for everybody. If you are a designer, developer, entrepreneur, a writer, whatever it is, if you have an idea, if you want to contribute, you can be on a hackathon team, right? We're allowing teams of up to 6. So you can have a team full of a ton of different skill sets to help you build out everything from the project to the pitch deck, right? So if you're, and I think what a hackathon is teams coming together and building out an idea. And so whatever idea they might have that they want to create that the world has, hopefully never seen before, and present that in a, to the world. And ideally, in our context, this is going to a set of some really exciting judges. There's a ton that are still to be released, that'll be coming in the coming weeks. But there's already a few that have been announced in kind of the first wave that are awesome. And so I think it's also about just getting a chance to go out there and see what you build. And you never know. I mean, you could build something in a day that ends up winning you some money that helps you continue to build this and gives you a project. And, there's been some hackathons already in the internet computer ecosystem that have been done regionally, but this is the first time that, this is a global hackathon. So this is, the foundation is leading this, and there's a ton of regional partners that are supporting this from the, hackathon level, as well as, a bunch of different partners that are contributing everything from prizes to speakers. And so, yeah, it's a really awesome opportunity to learn about a new ecosystem, but also to start building. And when you're thinking about what languages, the main languages that are supported by the internet computer itself are Motoko and Rust. Motoko is a native language that's, extremely easy to learn, especially for a lot of developers that have familiarity with a wide range of languages, but also any language that you can compile into WebAssembly can be deployed into what we call a canister, which is a smart contract or container of code that you can just put online, aka on the internet computer. It's hosted, so you can pretty much write in any language. You can compile into WebAssembly and then deploy that to the internet computer. So there are a bunch of different agents and compilers that can support that. There's a bunch of different documentation out, and also a good developer forum and Discord. So all of that is here. And I guess, while we're screen sharing, this website is Dfinity.org/supernova. It's kind of the hub for this hackathon. Also, if you just want to go straight to the dev post, if that's more your speed, just go to supernova.devpost.com or just click the link right here. But what we've got is, just a super incredible amount of funding, honestly, especially when you're looking at blockchain space. It's one of the largest hackathon prize totals in history. But there's a few different prizes that I think, the most interesting thing to me is the track. So that's what I want to get into. Obviously, there's a grand champ. So whoever's winning right now, it's at 75K plus 100K grant and 6 free tickets to the Internet Computer Developer Conference. That is to be, the details are to be announced. So keep an eye out for that. But again, I think there is a potential for this to move and beef up. So keep an eye on this page as well for that. Additionally, so here's the categories. Web3 category, this is, again, this is what we're all building. So how do you build the new platforms that really reward users and, take in the advantages of the internet computer's low cost decentralized storage, as well as no gas fees for end users, so people can just interact with it like they do a website. So I think this is going to be a really incredible category. DeFi, I think this is going to be huge for the internet computer ecosystem. I think we're in the really early days of what DeFi will become and what the internet computer offers when it comes to DeFi. Again, taking in the advantages of reverse gas fees and cycles being consistent in their costs, and being equitable to just the cost of the electricity, or computation rather. I think that DeFi is going to be an extremely interesting category. Also, the ways that people are able to integrate DeFi into some different use cases. So I think it's more than just like the DEX use case, right? So how do we bring in DeFi and make that something that can create some equitable products or whatever it might be? Then you have NFT gaming and metaverse as one category. So again, bringing in all of these components, I think we want to see more than just an NFT, more than just a JPEG, and bringing that NFT and having that be a component in a game, or having that be a component within a metaverse ecosystem, or the game itself be an NFT, or all of these interesting combinations that people will be able to come up with, right? GameFi and et cetera, et cetera. So I think, there's some really interesting projects. IC1101, if you haven't seen it, they've got an epic demo on the metaverse. It looks so cool. So you're able to take your NFT and walk it around inside of the metaverse. So again, really cool stuff that's possible only on the internet computer, taking that data on chain.
Maddie, real quick, that company you just mentioned, will they be participating in the Supernova Hackathon?
That is a good question. I think we'd have to ask them. But yeah, I think there's there's gonna be a lot of great competition, but there's also gonna be an amazing opportunity for, you know, submissions from developers of all levels to really compete and qualify. Again, you never know what's gonna win these categories. While the judges, it is a hackathon. It's about showing the potential as well as showing what works. So, you know, I think I really encourage everybody, no matter how big or small, if you're a dev studio or if you're just like, you know, someone who's trying to like learn how to code on blockchain for the first time, like we want all of you. And there's a huge series of workshops. So those just kicked off last week. They've started to come out on YouTube. So plenty of time to get up to speed. The hackathon kicks off on May 10th. So again, plenty of time for you if you're checking this out. And even when it kicks off, it's hackathon. Plenty of people submit at the last minute, and sometimes they're the winners. So I think this is just an awesome opportunity. Cool. And then the next category is decentralized social. I think if we're looking at where the internet computer developers have seen some really incredible success and where the ecosystem is really gravitated towards, it's some of these decentralized social app dapps, right? So if you're looking at Discover, which is an amazing project that's, you know, similar to Reddit, but completely decentralized, serving media with its own portals, if you will, instead of subreddits, and just like the ability to do a really engaging platform with an astronomical amount of users for a blockchain dApp like that. And so that really exciting. And then also they've had a bunch of different airdrops for the community. So if just for the most engaged users on there, they've had the ability for different projects to reward the community, which has been really awesome. And then additionally, there's District, again, mentioned them as well. Open Chat has been, you know, an incredible tool. So a lot of really good examples of this that have been really successful. So if you're building, you know, a social app and you're trying to find ways to really make it more compelling, and bring in tokenization and bring in decentralization and some of these Web3 components, you know, it's not an extremely difficult port to kind of take what you're building and, you know, host it on the internet computer. So a lot of really interesting aspects there.
Which, by the way, the decentralized social, for example, DSCVR Discover, a lot of the airdrops are pretty impressive too. I mean, they provide cool utility, for example, gateway into specific community portals, where if you own such NFT, you can have access to that specific community. Plus, you could sell those NFTs on secondary marketplaces, right? If you really have no personal use case behind it. So yeah, airdrops, of course, they're rewards for active, engaging users on these decentralized social applications. So definitely a unique thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, great note. And then the final categories, infrastructure. Again, we want to again, this is an ecosystem effort to build out the ecosystem as well. So I think there's already been a ton of amazing things built out by people in the community. You know, shout out Jordan Last amongst a ton of other developers that are building out things to make it easier for others to build out things. And so I think we really want to continue to support that effort and really help people build more tools and more agents and asset bridges and all of these wonderful things that'll help every dApp continue to build. And, you know, I'm excited for this to see kind of some, you know, some canister API, DAPIs, if you will, that are, you know, taking modules that every dApp is going to need and just making it, all right, plug right in here and you can use this asset or this canister here and easily add in this really clean functionality. Kind of like, you know, and I think that that'll help the ecosystem and these tools grow. Again, there's a lot of level of trust. And so it's about building out, you know, quality code that we can all see. So I think it'll be interesting. And then the final category that is the most important in my opinion is social impact. So how are we building technology and using Web3 to actually create a better world? So again, this is a little bit more of an open-ended category when you look at the technology, but I think it's really about, you know, it's the most focused out of all of these. So one context, if you are a team, you can create as many projects as you'd like, but you can only apply to one of these major categories. So that's just one context. Make sure that the projects are focused on a category when you're building it out, but you can make as many as you want. And then again, if we're looking at that, there's going to be a community choice that'll be voted for in dev post. So everyone feel free to jump over there. And the grand champion, anyone can be eligible for, as well as additional funding, seed funding from these, you know, partners and many more. So a lot of partners here to call out: Fobi, Electric Capital, Polychain, and Ventures SNZ, Masari, Mino Capital, Scalar, FPG, Foresight, Tomahawk, and then regional hackathon providers, Dora Hacks, Hacker Fun and Code, Hack Latam, and we've also got Devfolio coming on board. But these are a lot of partners that are helping on all aspects. So it's not just like sponsors or anything. These are really a lot of the people that are helping out behind the scenes to support this effort. In addition, a lot more will be announced. And then, some of our wonderful judges and speakers that have been announced in the first wave. Big shout out to everybody, especially Olaf, an incredible visionary in the world of blockchain. If you don't know who he is, definitely look him up. But yeah, really excited to have these people take a look at the projects that you are all building, as well as a lot of other people. So yeah, this is great. And then, just if you need a little inspiration, it's got it there. But the main thing is, just register on the dev post. So that'll get you all the info, get you to the workshops, get you the previous ones, and whatever else information you might need.
Maddie, that is so exciting. So at the end, if I understood you correct, not only can you be eligible for the hackathon rewards, but if your project or if the mission you're trying to build out with your team is successful enough, is there a possibility that it will open the door to those partners for further discussion and seeding?
Without a doubt. Yeah, that is a big focus of this hackathon, why a lot of the community is extremely excited. And there's been all these like Dom is always speaking about all these people that are on the sidelines, and there's this is just an amazing opportunity now that the ecosystem is maturing for these projects to really get put on notice, and also projects from other ecosystems to come in as well and do the same thing and be able to bring their talents to the internet computer ecosystem and say, there's real talent looking at what I'm building. And again, if you look at some of the other hackathons, there's a hackathon out of China, I believe it was Warp Speed Hackathon, and Dmail received a funding valuation of about $10 million immediately after the hackathon. And so that was not even this global hackathon, right? So like, I think that there's an incredible opportunity for just like a lot of projects to really, make, as I want to say, quit their jobs and come work on this full time. And I think that's an opportunity that Web3 can afford for a lot of people at this time. So.
Wow, this is such an incredible opportunity. I feel like so many more people, especially from a traditional coding background, right? There are a lot of undergraduates, a lot of people who are unfamiliar with these sort of hackathons. They're cross-chain too. Like you said, this is arguably the biggest one up and coming. This is just a huge opportunity. And what's cool too is you don't necessarily need to interact with your team in person due to the nature of Web3 and community building. It's so easy to build friendships, connections online with other people via the Twitter space, etc. This is amazing. I'm happy you brought this up because it's really informative. At least for me, I know a lot more.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, super excited about it, and yeah, excited to see what people can build too. That's the most exciting thing about what we're all working on. I mean, you work at Toniq, so you all know about building a lot of really cool stuff. So don't need to tell y'all about it. I feel like it's a hackathon there every day with the amount of things that I see coming up. So
I'm just a cheerleader. I support the team. That's
ditto,
cool.
Ditto. Yeah.
So I do want to ask you real quick before we dive into NFTs, because for me, NFTs are exciting. They're a fun topic. A lot of people are into them. Real quick, because I know we're approaching an hour. How do you see your posterity using blockchain technology, more specifically the internet computer? I mean, do you see hackathons being a habitual event where, give it 10, 20, 30 years, more and more hackathons will come to light? I mean, how do you see your future family utilizing the blockchain technology like the IC?
Yeah, I think there's a couple parts to that, but I think as far as it goes with hackathons, it's like, yeah, I think there will be nothing but continuation of them. I think it'll only get better as to how people can collaborate virtually. I think virtual collaboration is something that everyone is extremely focused on right now. Again, when I was working at Moxtra, that was what we were focused on then. And like now it's become a lot more prevalent. And so I think that's one thing. it'll just only get more intriguing as to how we're able to work with people, whether it's through VR means or whatever it might be. Who knows? And then I think on the other front is, will blockchain technology become more pervasive? Like, I want to say I hope so, but I think the answer is I know so. I mean, I think it's an inevitability when it comes to technology. And for those that would like to think otherwise or say otherwise, it'll go on record as being foolish in the end. And so I think it's just a matter of what are the use cases that really change user behavior, and really allow people to have a better experience than what they have now. And also it's what do people care about when? If everybody cared an insane amount about certain things when it comes to privacy and data privacy and how companies are using their data, we would see an exodus to blockchain projects or things that are higher security, right? But it's less important. And as the conversation continues, if we see more of an emphasis on the benefits of decentralization, as we see centralization being abused more, then that also will become more prevalent. But otherwise, people don't really care about decentralization that much. They say they do, right? Like everyone in blockchain is like, decentralization. Then you see like, BNB and all these other things that are just like extremely like centralized, which they work highly performant sometimes at what they're supposed to do. They're low cost and they're able to do that, but at the cost of decentralization. But people will still use it because at the end of the day, people are looking for what's the lowest cost thing that they can use at a lot of time. And there's no fault to the user. The user goes where it's most convenient. And so I think it's also about ensuring, once the technologies are able to supply an experience to end users that is better and that gives them more of a reason and a benefit, then absolutely we'll see that trend continue, to the point where, I don't know, I think if you ask a lot of people at the foundation, we're blockchain maximalists, and we're excited to see how blockchain can take over pretty much all of today's software, right? I think we can redo it all and make it better for the end user, or just at least rebuild it in a way that doesn't have to, be reliant on these centralized services throughout the way and remove complexity of the technology stack by doing so.
That's so exciting. Yeah, there definitely is a lot to look forward to. Mark my word, Maddie, and everyone else, there will be so many blockchain college classes to choose from, different blockchain-based universities. I just think it will be more common,
100%. Yeah, it might be even just a topic in elementary school at some point. So.
Yeah. All right, children, this is how a smart contract is executed. Listen closely.
They'll be writing smart contracts by hand on paper,
Yeah. That's so funny. So Maddie, real quick, I do want to dive into NFTs. Why do you think NFTs have as much hype as they do?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I think it's one of those things, as with a lot of these questions when it comes to like collectibles, art, and all of those things. Like, why do Pokemon cards have as much hype? Why do certain pieces of art have as much hype? A lot of people like to tell the Mona Lisa story when asked about the NFT history. And I think that, when it comes to like why NFTs have as much hype, I think it's because it's the newness, it's the ability to have a unique item that is yours, right? Like when you have a Charizard, you're like, yes, it's my Charizard. But I can't take that Charizard everywhere with me without risk. And I also can't show that everywhere and know that I have that everywhere securely and safely. And, maybe securely and safely is not always true. Like a lot of people can lose it in a million different ways. But I think the point,
or somebody robs you, that would be worst case scenario.
Yeah, well, I guess if they robbed you, your NFT might be safe. So whereas your Charizard's gone.
Rip your Charizard.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think I think with all things, like, there is also the biggest thing with NFTs though that they've done incredibly distinctly is community. And so whereas your Pokemon community was you and your friends, like battling without, when it comes to NFT, there's actual utility amongst the community.
That brings me back to 4th grade, Maddie. I remember a lot of my punishments in that class was my teacher taking away my set of Pokemon cards, because I used to duel and trade them with my friends in class, right? Disturbing the educational setting when all of us would just have fun with our Pokemon cards. Man, those were the days.
Exactly. So we've come into an evolved version of that, if you will. And I think where NFTs will really become more interesting, right? Where the hype is from the people that really get it as well, is that the NFTs are already becoming and will be much more than just a JPEG. And I think that that's where it becomes interesting. Even when it comes down to NFTs as tickets, as records, so that replace hopefully Ticketmaster with something that doesn't charge you as many fees. But then your ticket is a forever indelible, unique item as well that you can keep, right? A lot of people even just keep their ticket stubs today. But having that be an object that's digital, I think that's really interesting. Also, I think NFTs is access. Again, you mentioned it. I think you were referring to the OG medals when you're looking at Discover. Those are just like a really, really amazing project where you reward the early members of the community and give them the ability to access the lounge and communicate in there, but then also trade that on the secondary market. Shout out DK Lord, the guy behind the art on those. He's a great person. And then I think there's the side of it where it's going to be really impactful, which is like hopefully the positive usage of it in gaming, right? I think there's already enough gating when it comes to gaming and like pay to play. We don't want that. We want like play to earn and those types of ecosystems. And so, hopefully the NFTs coming into gaming can be something really positive that allows you to carry your things over between games and not force you to rebuy a bunch of things every year when, they release a new 2K or whatever it is that might be occurring. And then again, those are much more consumer centric examples. I think there's a ton of like more impactful examples when you look at how blockchain can be used for like supply chain and record keeping and like things like health records and ensuring that these objects are not lost or are easy to transfer. If you were to switch certain like hospitals, you don't have to like bring over all your paperwork and all this bulky stuff that you might lose, or your family's medical history, but also again used in a positive way. So it can be encrypted and maybe you only have access and not the ability for an insurance company to go look at your medical history and deny you service because someone somewhere in your family history had something, right? So again, I think it's about the ethical stewardship of this new technology, just like with any technology. And it's kind of our role as the pioneers in these ecosystems to try and ensure that. So.
Well, I am excited for, and I'm grateful for the Supernova and similar hackathons down the road, is the ability for the transformation of these NFTs, for them to actually provide a real value use case, like you said, healthcare records, etc., just tangible use cases that will provide a lot of value from your NFTs.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a great note. But also to add, there is some really beautiful art out there. So not to take away from all the JPEGs that are just JPEGs and they should just be JPEGs. Y'all keep making your art. I think that stuff's incredible, and it's wonderful to have a new tool for creators to get, funded directly by their community. And I think that that's also another use case of NFTs that has led to that hype, right? If you're an incredible artist and you've been making just some epic art all the time, being able to get, a living from it, from, as Chris Dixon puts it, just all you need is 1,000 fans, and like, that's all you need. And so if you have 1,000 fans, you can be successful in this new Web3 world. So yeah, a lot of great stuff there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Last year, Maddie, NFT.NYC, you were there in person, right?
I was indeed, yeah.
I'm so excited to hear about this because I do want to touch on this real quick. So NFT.NYC, arguably it's the leading conference for NFTs. It's widely known, it's super popular. It brings artists, builders, enthusiasts from around the world to meet in New York City. As a Dfinity member, since you were there last year, what was it like being there? Tell me about it. What was the vibe? How was it overall?
Yeah, honestly, it was incredible. I thought it was honestly one of my first crypto conference that was truly a crypto conference, because I started working in blockchain during 2020. So there was no conferences for quite some time. And, but what I really loved about this intersection when you look at NFTs is that it is truly the blend of all of the things that I think make crypto really interesting. You've got the devs, you've got the nerds, you've got the DeFi degens, but you've also got the artists and these like, a lot of these people that get attracted to this kind of rebellious art. And I think that there was just an incredible mix of people at this event. And yeah, it was just really cool to be at. There was a ton of different people speaking. That was really great, but also just like I thought that what was really impactful was just the people that were attending. There was a guy I met there who, it was a cool story. He was like, I used to work at this Chili's down the street, and then I started making NFTs like a month or two ago, and now I just opened up a shop across the street from the Chili's. And I was like, that is such a cool story. I was like, that's so cool. So again, it was just cool to see how NFTs really affect people, and really bring the people back into this. We're all digitally, we're all on crypto, we're all on crypto Twitter, and everyone's like a profile pic of whatever NFT they bought or pretended to buy. And so I think it's just it was cool to put faces not even behind the names. You don't even necessarily know who all these people are when on Twitter. You can, but I think it's just cool to put a lot of faces behind the community. So.
That's fun. That's fun. And just being able to meet a ton of people there, I'm sure that was breathtaking in of itself, right? Getting to meet people you interacted with on Twitter before, finally putting a face to an actual name. So
yeah, I agree. It was super
fun.
fun, and also meeting a lot of people. It was. I will say it was unique. We had our, I think we'll get to it, but we had our stands that we were there, and they were hand sanitizer stands. I think that's what kept a lot of us safe. Meeting so many people was that we were like continuously, like
I'm
healthy,
so
because I know
excited
that
to get to
there were
this.
some hot spots throughout NFT.NYC, if you will. But yeah,
yeah, I'm so curious to know how that went. We're gonna get to that in a second. That's awesome. As the product market manager for Dfinity, what plans do you guys have for the upcoming event? Have you guys begun brainstorming what you want there at NFT.NYC?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We've got definitely a lot of really interesting things coming up. I think also the community is starting to take a lot of interesting things into their hands. So I think looking at next NFT.NYC, there's nothing I can say to this moment. But one event that I'm really interested in and excited for is Vibrant or Vibrant, which is going to be coming out of Latin America. It's a new NFT art series, and this first one's hosted in Bellas Artes, so like a fine and classical arts museum. And it's going to be all about modern day NFTs and the blend between classical art. So it's going to be a really, really exciting expose. And then also, again, a really cool presence coming across a lot of different events in the near future.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Going back to the hand sanitizer stand, who brainstormed that idea? Because that's so brilliant. You get some hand sanitizer and then you can scan this QR code to receive a free little Motoko NFT.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
who's
was
the brain
mostly
behind that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think probably a lot of the leadership of it goes really to Liz Yang. She was doing a ton of the work behind the scenes. Obviously, a lot of the huge shout out to the folks at Toniq Labs for being able to support and make the NFT drop possible. I think it's the first time that anyone had tried to do a physical live on-site NFT unique drop while also doing a virtual drop to discovery. It was just like a crazy combination of things all to happen at once. But and then again, a lot of people on from the Dfinity Foundation that supported. So like big shout outs especially to like Anna Asher and Alexa Smith and Igor Lilich and Lomesh Dutta and Mike Lee and a lot of the team that was there supporting on site. It was just an incredible thing. It was the first time a lot of people ever experienced the internet computer. And what they did is they would come up, they'd see this QR and with these beautiful Motoko arts that were designed by John Ball. Also shout out to John Ball, where the original creator of the Motoko, where we made all these renditions, all unique, 10,000, and the people on site were able to have an opportunity to scan and see what they got, right? And there's all these, 1 in 10,000, you don't know what you get. While they're doing that, they're scanning it and they're able to, experience the internet computer for the first time. They mint it, they bring it into a wallet. It's all happened seamlessly. And then they realized it was all on chain, right? So it was this incredible opportunity for a lot of people to say, whoa, I just minted that for free. Because you can mint a lot of things at this conference, but you spend like $100 for a free NFT because the gas fees are through the roof, right? Obviously no gas on this. So it was really incredible. And then, right from there, you're able to take it, list it on Entrepot. And so again, experiencing a ton of different Toniq Labs products while also, just being completely on chain throughout the entire experience. And then if they wanted to, there was a joke going around that like people were able to sell their Motoko for more than they paid for the ticket of NFT NYC during the event. And so like, I don't know, it was just like
This
It's
is
just like
true.
funny. Yeah, so it was just like a fun, whatever. It was a fun drop, fun way for people to really experience it. But most of the Motokos went to the diehard ICP community that was, a lot of the early fans on Discover. And so, I think even to this day, it's the most widely held NFT in the internet computer ecosystem. And, again, as the foundation, building out our first NFT, we wanted to be mindful of ensuring that it was quality, high quality, creative, really purposeful, and had a reason. It was the 2-year anniversary of Motoko, the language, and now that the blockchain was finally live, it felt like an amazing opportunity. I think going into that, I would love to see people take these Motokos and incorporate them into their Supernova project. I think that would be great if someone's like, yeah, here you get this game and you can start with a base Motoko, but maybe if you have one, you can play with it in a certain way and like bring it be your avatar. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for those little guys to become some big guys. But
Yeah, they are so iconic throughout the whole community. The Motokos, they are famous hands down. So that was an awesome initiative. I know a lot of us not in New York, right, around the world, we were so excited about that launch. I remember the day of, because I wasn't there in person. I bought one for a couple ICP far away from New York. I still wanted to be a part of the action. So that was a
yeah,
fun
no, that's
time.
great. Yeah, I think I remember Bob was like, or someone was like testing it out, and like so they like listed one for an ICP, and it got swooped up by somebody like somewhere in the world like immediately, and it was like, oops, that wasn't supposed to be there. But yeah, no, it's fun. It was a great, great community activity to give people this piece of art, and a lot of effort from a lot of people to make it happen. But also, again, great way for a lot of people at the event to have their first time experiencing the internet computer, and see our fun little Motoko mascot. So excited to get more Motokos out to the world, both in sticker form and whatever other form it might be. So yeah.
What was it like obtaining your first ICP NFT? What was it?
That's a good question. Well, my first NFT was actually the Starburst, because that was dropped, and I think that was actually the first NFT on all of the internet computer officially. And so that was really incredible, honestly. All of a sudden, I go into Discover one day, and there's this NFT drop, and there's this little star guy, and I'm like, wait, what? They can do this? I was like, this is incredible. I was like, I didn't even know it was possible. I was like, this is so cool. And then I was looking, and like Entrepot ends up listing them, and I was like, people are trading. I was like, holy, this is crazy. This is real. And then I think the second one was the IC Punks on their launch, where it seemed like they were trying to crash the internet computer, was pretty much their intent.
I'm
But
sure
you
that
know
was such
what?
a wild day for you guys at Dfinity.
I think it was a lot wilder for a lot of other people, but I think the engineers are, still maybe scarred from that. No, I'm just kidding. They're all great. They're wonderful. They made sure that everything was smooth. But yeah, I think once it started happening, they're like, what is happening to the network? It was like, well, this performance is going crazy. But yeah, it made it through, 30 minutes, all of them were gone, and that was a wrap. So
That was awesome. I do remember that
yeah.
was a valiant test. Because that was only a few months, maybe several months after the Genesis launch. That was a valiant test to see the capacity of such
It was like
subnets.
a purposeful DDoS test. It was like, how do we get 100,000 people to attack a web page button at the same time and click it like a million times and refresh a million times? So it's like, they're each doing it like 20 times. Yeah, it was a good stress test for sure. So, a human powered DDoS.
I remember I was stressed myself because I was a victimizer. I kept refreshing like
Oh,
30.
I was too, honestly. So
Yeah.
I felt bad. I was like, sorry. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's
But
so fun. Yeah, already I am just so impressed, so happy, Maddie, that the IC has built up this amazing community from all of these trials and errors, from IC punks to the chronics to the Starverse airdrops. Like, it's so cool watching this unfold, and it hasn't even been a full year yet. Like, this is impressive to me in terms of building a genuine community. Like, it gets me pumped to know what's ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a bunch of incredible communities already built, especially through NFTs. And I think like when you look at what the Internet Computer does well, it does a lot of things well that other blockchains literally cannot do, right? You can't serve web from any other blockchain. It's impossible right now. You can't store this, high volume of data and also process it in a smart contract, especially not in a cost efficient way on any other blockchain, let alone perform it. And so those things it does incredibly well. Some of the things that people know about blockchains or assume them to do, it's not necessarily as primed for today, right? So I think like you'll see a boon in a lot of things that people know when it comes to blockchain, like a lot of tokens and a lot of these DeFi things and things that are maybe in other blockchains like the only thing that they do. Whereas for us, we do so many different things. And again, one of the things we do incredibly well is these NFTs. So you're seeing like this beautiful like generative art, and so like I think shout out to the BTC Flower team. They've done an incredible job of Ludo, who's been an artist his whole life, a street artist, and now has become a digital artist and has converted that into this incredible community that's also becoming a DAO. So talk about going all the way in on Web3. And then Poke Studio, John Ball, like incredible artist who has a background in like television, digital media, and a lot of these really incredible like beautiful scenes, and like taking that and turning that into poke bots. And now it looks like Gen 2's coming out, so like really incredible continuous development and building of beautiful art from a lot of really incredible artists, amongst all the other really cool like communities and like stuff that people are building, of course. So
That's so exciting. Shout out to all of those creators. We'll be sure to mention some links down below as well. Maddie, thank you so much for coming on here, just talking about Web3, the ICU, your Frisbee skills. On that note, you habitually play in the San Francisco area, right? Because I noticed on Twitter, you were gauging to see which of your followers play Ultimate Frisbee that also live in the Bay Area, right? Are
yes.
are they still eligible to play with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while we're at it, let's give a shout out to San Francisco Battery. We're starting tryouts in the next couple of weeks. So if you're in the Bay Area, if you want to play Frisbee, there's a Bay Area mixer actually this Sunday, and then a bunch of things going on. So yeah, if you search around for SF San Francisco Battery Ultimate, I'm sure you'll find one of the email lists or Twitters, or just ping me, at Broner Matthias, aka MetaMatty on Twitter. And yeah, I'll be sure to plug you. And also a fun fact while we're at it, Bob, one of the main guys over there at Toniq that everyone knows, Bob Bodley, he and I were actually met when we were at NFT.NYC, and we were talking about a few things, and we realized that we had both played Frisbee against each other in college at the same time. So he was at BYU and I was at Luther, and we played against each other at least a few times. So that was a fun one to figure out that he and I were actually matched up at some point. So
I remember Bob telling me about that. That's so funny. It
yeah,
is
I
a
had to give
small
him the
world,
shout out before the call's over. So I had to
right?
make sure I got
Yeah.
that in. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what's cool about this whole IC community. I feel like we're all one big family, right? Like he originally had two competitors, Bob and Maddie, who were against each other playing Frisbee. Now they're building on the same ecosystem.
Yeah, no, it is honestly incredible. And I think, just to like wrap on a few things, like the Supernova Hackathon, we're really like excited about a lot of the regional partners we have. We have partners out of China, India, Latin America, North America, Europe, global partners in general. Like we want to represent every country in this hackathon and get people from everywhere developing. If you're a regional partner from another area and you'd like to support, definitely reach out to myself. We'd love to get you in the loop. But yeah, I think there's just like what the Internet Computer affords is for anyone anywhere to be able to deploy software to this world computer. You don't need VC funding. You don't need tons of AWS credits in the back pocket. Like you can just build your code, and if people like it and they want to use it, it'll you'll build the community that'll help support that. And so yeah, I think it's just a incredible opportunity, and like yeah, just really excited for what we can all build. So.
That's so amazing. Maddie, thank you so much for being on here. The community loves you. We're grateful for your time, for your presence. So we learned a lot, that's for sure.
You're too kind. You're too kind. Yeah, no, thank you to you, everyone over there at the team. And yeah, thank you to everybody listening in. Really appreciate everything you're doing in the community. Yeah, we're all here working for it, and I think it's awesome to see what everyone's already been able to build in such a short amount of time. So yeah, stoked.
Woo.